You can pay me what I.
To board meeting for the South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority. And I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight and thank you for your attendance. And we'll get down to business here in just a few minutes. If we will, let's have a roll call.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gooch,
Present.
Ms. Kaczynski,
Present.
Ms. Jordan, Mr. Karen. Present. Mr. McKellar,
Present.
Mr. McLam, Mr. Way.
Present. So we do have a quorum, so if you will, please join me in a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you seeking wisdom and guidance and conducting the business for the South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority. We thank you for all of your blessings and thank you for the trials and tribulations that we face. And we know they're designed to make us stronger and make better people out of us. And in all this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Sorry that was short, but now.
Stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any adjustments to the meeting agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call for an executive session on property acquisition.
All right. We'll put that as our last item and for the evening then to go into a closed session. And with that adjustment, or are there any other adjustments to the meeting agenda? Do I hear? If not, if no one has any other adjustments, then call for a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. McKellar,
Second.
second by Mr. Way. If there's any discussion on it, on the motion? If not, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Motion is approved. And now we get to the review and approval of the minutes from the July 12th, 2022 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to go over the meeting minutes? Yes.
Yes.
If so, to hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from
Motion.
July 12th.
Motion to approve, Commissioner Kaczynski. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Way. Any discussion? If not, all those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Now we have public comments. Did anyone sign up for public comments tonight?
Not at all.
Okay. Okay, so no public comments. And now we get down to item number 8 is our board discussion topic. Get to the right page here. Board discussion items. Mr. Way, you had fire hydrant care and maintenance that you wanted to discuss?
Yes, sir.
All right, you have the floor.
Oh, he comes up to the podium right there.
Oh, okay.
Guilty as
Man, I tell
charged.
you what.
All right.
So I know that you had a question about our hydrant maintenance. So right now, we do perform maintenance on our hydrants in the system, but we do not have an ideal maintenance program, to be honest. Right now, we are more reactive and are out trying to solve problems after they come up, more so than we are proactive. And that's something that we need to do a better job on. And that's something that we got plans in the works. We've talked to our utility staff to implement a better and more detailed, more thorough hydrant maintenance program where we can get out and exercise hydrants on a cycled basis. So every X number of years, we go out and operate and test all of them. So we'll know. Along with that, we're looking at a gate valve maintenance program as well. We ought to exercise a certain number of valves every year. So every 3 to 5 years, every valve in the system is operated to make sure that it works. So that's just a couple areas that we are doing some work on, but we need to do better. So I don't know if that answers your question or concerns.
Well, no, that's most of it. I was getting ready to say, I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of municipalities and jurisdictions around us have kind of like a checklist for that type of what entails in operations. The biggest thing that we run into from the fire department setting is the hydrants not in the municipal area, i.e. on some of these rural roads, especially if you're going down, let's say, Stem Brogdon Road area towards Stem itself from Creedmoor. Trying to find a hydrant sometimes is pretty hard. So what we've done in the past in Creedmoor is actually purchased the weed killer and gone around the hydrants and sprayed, because you're supposed to keep a 3-foot area around the hydrant clear so we can access it. Trying to figure out better ways in some of the rural areas where we can better identify and find the hydrant, whether it be putting a reflector on the roadway, painting a fire hydrant emblem on the roadway in front of the hydrant so it's easier to spot, something of that nature, so it's easier for us to find hydrants that are in the rural areas that we have.
I think with your background, it's something that we should work together on. I mean, I think our staff, we can work with you on developing a program that works. And you got more experience with the fire hydrants than I do.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's no problem.
Together on
Like I
that.
say, I know that it's been more reactive than proactive due to other issues coming up and manpower, and there's always something. And it's definitely, like you said, it's something that we can work together as a team to maybe put in place and focus. And I've talked to Director Schroyer about, what can we do as a fire department to try to help, of course. So yeah, that's all I wanted to do discussion wise, was make sure that we were doing something to head towards that proactive approach.
Okay, sounds good.
We had, in conjunction with Brassfield, predominant portion of my district, we talked about, we've got the snow flags, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And then the reflective stork valve cover, right? Is it the right term? And then obviously you said Roundup and or whatever,
Whatever you can use.
and then weeding, but it's one of those, it's feast and famine, because you got it cleaned up and then you get a growth spurt like we've had here now, and you've got waist high weeds. But I think between the 2 fire departments and Zigwasa, 3 fire departments in Zigwasa, so we should be able to come up with a junior firefighter program or some avenue that we can get some maintenance done and work in conjunction. I agree. You got them all the way to Wilton.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And you also got 15 north and down Hester.
We've used the back of the brush truck with a weed sprayer, and somebody sits there and so, yes, sir, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you.
So, yes, go ahead.
So why do we not have the hydrants on a maintenance schedule? I know we're just, like you said, reactive instead of proactive. We need to have the fire hydrants on a maintenance schedule like we have for our towers and our pump stations. And we had a city employee from Creedmoor, and I think I've talked to Director Schroyer about it. The fire hydrants need to be painted. Again, in my subdivision, they're mauve. The paint has faded away and stuff like that, but we need to have painting and cutting and locating, and it's our equipment. We've got to maintain it. And yes, in conjunction with the fire departments is fine, but we probably, I think, I don't know if it was you who told me every 5 years it has to be, they all have to be inspected once every 5 years. And there's over 400 that I'm aware of. And I know that we've got our hands full as we have it right now, but we really need to set up a maintenance schedule for these fire hydrants so that they are taken care of, because if firemen can't find a fire hydrant, somebody's gonna lose their house.
So to your point, and I think you'll see it demonstrated in some of the agenda items later this evening on how we are talking about how we're taking programs and learning how we can outsource certain functions contractually to stretch our resources.
Okay,
Keep that in mind. We'll talk about that this evening. There's several programs that we don't do or don't do sufficiently because of a lack of manpower and resources. And Mark mentioned a couple of those this evening. I've mentioned to the board recently about backflow. It's the 811 we're going to talk about this evening, so we're moving in that direction. In addition to that, at our finance committee meetings earlier this spring for this year's budget, we talked a lot about the resource needs of the organization. And the finance committee suggested that they wanted to see a 5-year, 10-year plan, basically on resourcing needs, so that we can delineate the programs that we have and we're not doing, show the resources, and then have a schedule on what that looks like moving forward. So we don't say year after year we don't have resources for that. We need to know what resources we need and the financial impact on that moving forward. So that's something the finance committee asked for, and that's something we're going to deliver in our next round of budget discussions, February of next year. We're working on that as well. So we're aware of that. We're just a little bit strained on our resources, but we always look for what's the best way to do the program versus just adding resources on staff to do that, because there's a lot of contractual help and a lot of programs out there as well. So I did mention the backflow program we're going to be doing with some contractual help, the NC 811 program we're talking about, and there's other programs as well. So fire hydrant maintenance, valve maintenance, and exercising. We have a contract for a water tower that we've been under for many, many years now. So our water towers are maintained under a contract. In fact, the contractor just finished painting and maintaining the town of Stem's.
so it looks beautiful.
Also water tower in the town of Stem just recently. So that's done as well. So I just want to give you some perspective on what we're aware of and how we're moving forward to address those needs.
Any further discussion?
It's like just you.
Okay. All right, and the item I had was consideration of annual wage rate adjustments for employees. And what we were talking about was a COLA adjustment. We gave it 2% in July, part of the new fiscal year. But everyone around us is given considerably more. And it's, cost of everything is going up, and, you know, we need to look after our employees because we're having trouble keeping employees. Everyone's having a problem. We discussed earlier, the 911 operators, we have problems with the county with various other employees. And, it's a big problem. And areas surrounding us are raising their wages. They're reclassifying, well, not reclassifying the employees, but they're raising the pay bands for the employees. And it's going to take its toll on us. And I'd like to send this item back to the Finance Committee to make a recommendation. We have cost projections on anywhere from 1% to 5%. And we have to remember this is not a one-time budget item. This will be a recurring budget item. It's going to raise next year's budget. So I'd like to have the Finance Committee look at this and come back with a recommendation of what they feel we can afford to do and what we need to do.
So this is in addition to the 2% we've already given them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's been,
Does the board want to make any suggestions before it goes to the finance committee? Anybody?
I would suggest looking at a 2 or 3%.
Right.
Does that sound reasonable?
3, what I had in mind.
3 is what you had in mind? Okay.
You don't want to know what I want. I'm a worker bee still
Are you
in the
on
field.
board
so-
with the 2 or 3? Or do you want more?
So fortunately and unfortunately, we live next to Raleigh and Durham. And when other municipalities and counties and government agencies are offering $10,000 signing bonuses and 4 and 7% COLAs, yeah. Losing deputies and school system is very upset because they can't get enough SROs. It's not because we don't want them to have them. It's because there's no people.
Can't hire them. They're not available.
Yeah, I missed that conversation last night. I understand.
So
And we had a conversation earlier about 911. They lost, I believe it was 4 employees last week, and one of them went to Wake Forest for a $20,000 a year raise.
yes,
So
we are in a
we
super
can't afford to compete at the county
hyperinflation.
level or at Sequassa level.
Hyperinflation. I have to say.
But, you know, we feel like we need to do something to show the employees that we understand what they're going through and help them in some way.
Your rates are $645,949 short of hitting zero.
Exactly. Okay,
Just saying.
I'll take it.
So I guess you, Linda, will need to work with Scott to schedule a finance committee meeting and see what we can give and when we can give it.
Watch Richard
Make Richard squirm.
get sweaty in his forehead.
Yeah. Okay, no other board discussion items, and move on to item number 9, allocation transfer request for 105 North Elm Street in Creedmoor. All right, Mark, you got this for us?
Yes, sir. On July 22nd of this year, a request was submitted to Sequassa to transfer the existing water and sewer allocations for 105 North Elm Street in Creedmoor to the new property owner. The property is currently under contract to sell. It's the old train depot in the location that you see on the map. Agenda item. The existing property consists of an old train depot, which most recently operated 3 businesses at the same time. However, this building has remained unused for the past 20+ years. The current Sequassa allocation policy does not provide any rules, regulations, or clarifications regarding vacant buildings or allocations that may have been previously approved prior to the creation of Sequassa, or how long those allocations can last. Based on this, Sequassa staff has reviewed the previous usage of the existing building versus the NCDEQ 2T rules for the wastewater design flows. And based on those estimates, looking at general business and office facilities, we've estimated that an allocation of about 500 gallons per day is what would have been used for this building. Sequassa staff recommendation, we recommend the existing allocation of 500 gallons per day of commercial water and wastewater allocation held by the current owner be transferred to the new owner who's under contract. That's 500 gallons per day. Should be contingent upon submission of a recorded deed after the close of sale. Schedule, should the board approve the request, a letter will be provided to these potential buyers stating that the transfer is approved and is contingent upon the submission of a recorded deed. Financially, no fees are being assessed at this time. It is possible that new water and or sewer tap fees could be required at a future date. Attachments include the allocation transfer request letter. This item does not have any strategic plan alignment. The executive director's recommendation, the board is for the board to approve the transfer of 500 gallons per day of the existing water and sewer allocation for 105 North Elm Street, Creedmoor, from Markin Incorporated to Muletown Depot LLC, contingent upon submission of the recorded deed after the close of sale.
Okay. Any questions for Mark? Yes.
How can 3 businesses run off of 500 gallons? There's no way. This is too low. It is an estimate. Are there no records? on this property?
There are no records, and
If you had an office where you had one person in it and only flushed a toilet twice a day, that's 12 gallons. I mean, you're talking about no residential, average residential use is 140, 150.
there are multiple ways to calculate this, and of course, the owner would like more, but I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with no other documentation. I had to go with something I feel comfortable with. You can look at fixture counts where you assume the number of toilets and sinks that were there, and you get a flow per fixture unit. You can also look at the way I looked at this with the NCDEQ 2T rules. For general business and office facilities, I believe it's 25 gallons per day per employee. I believe that's what we looked at, if I remember correctly, and just based on estimates, the best we could throw something together, that's what we came up with. I mean, I don't feel comfortable just granting thousands of gallons for this. We had to go with something that we feel comfortable with, and based on the data that I have, the limited data, this is a number I feel comfortable with.
But it was a train station and people came off the train, went to the bathroom.
Not in my
Talking
lifetime.
hundreds.
No, that was,
Not in my
Well,
lifetime.
I understand that. It was before that. So 500 gallons was good for hundreds of people.
They unloaded mules there.
They also unloaded troops for Camp
that
Butner.
was
They
all
did.
that was all pre-sewer, pre-water and sewer.
Yeah.
Did they have a well and a septic?
They had water, but there wasn't no meter system. They went to the lagoon.
So Creedmoor's records don't give you any more information?
We have absolutely
They
nothing.
don't exist.
They have to exist.
You're going back into the early 90s.
The last recollection I have of that building, I think Southern
I mean,
States
you
was
can't
using it
even
for
do
storage.
construction on this building with 500 gallons.
I mean, they could go back in with a commercial, you could have a business there. 500 gallons is sufficient for a business.
Not a restaurant. But I'm saying, just to do the construction that's needed to get it ready for when the allocation can go up. So here's another question. Since they need more allocation, when they finally get this thing built, is there a waiting list for allocation? I think there is, isn't there? Should he get on it if we approve this tonight?
There's no current waiting list. We have not been granting any additional, sewer capacity for development projects with the state of the sewer project. It could be that this is all he gets for now. And then when our sewer, the I-85 sewer upgrade project is completed, at that point, capacity will not be an issue. But of course, that could be years down the road.
Because there are 3 construction projects in the city of Creedmoor, in the Creedmoor city limits right now, that are waiting on allocation. And I just can't believe there's not a list for you guys to know that these guys are waiting on allocation, and as soon as it's ready, we could notify them and say, put in your application now.
But we've been talking
And
to,
I don't know how exactly the process goes. I don't think what I'm asking for is, Jim, I'm not asking anything illegal, right? Just keep track of who's needing allocation when it comes available.
I don't think we have to go through a typical application
Right.
process on a first serve.
That's what I'm saying. If it's first come, first served, there's got to be a list.
we have not, we do not have a list right now. Now, most of the developers in the area who want to build here, I talk to them regularly. These folks call me, ask for updates on our sewer project, ask for dates. I talk to a lot of developers about this. As we near construction and we have a better timeline for the project, maybe we do put a wait list together. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know.
Wait list, my concern with the wait list would be is it would prioritize somebody over another, and I think you don't want to be in the position of creating some sort of apparent property right, anything like that.
We also don't want to allow folks to claim allocation a decade before they actually want to go to construction. So, I mean, we've got to, there is a timing issue. We can't let people just hold on to allocations for years.
And then that's not what I'm asking. It's just we continue to say the words, first come, first serve. If there's no list, who's first?
Whoever submits the application at the time that it's available.
Okay, all right.
If a development submitted an application to me now for sewer allocation, I would just deny it.
Right. I understand that.
I can't, we can't accept it. So we would just deny any application right now. So it's just, as we move in the future, how do we handle that? Do we take out allocation request letters and we just don't process them and just approve them in the order that we receive them as of some date? I'm not sure what that looks like right now, but I think that's something we need to work on.
Just let me add this comment, because I've updated the board on this.
Don't say that to
Keep in mind that our allocation policy has to change, and we are going through edits presently on that. And because there's some realignment with some state requirements now in terms of how the allocations have to be not so much awarded, but the money collected for that. So we're going through that policy review at this point. We're aware of that, and we'll bring that back to you later this fall. So it will address those items.
me. I just can't, 500 seemed absolutely insane when I read it here, and I was like, there's no way. But I will be talking to Mr. Frangos tomorrow about old records. Because you guys still don't have all the records from the city of Creedmoor water system. I've heard that before. Or you feel that you might not have them all.
Well, we've asked for some records which they don't have. They said that they've provided all the records to us. And in this case, there was usage there years and years ago that there were no records for it, quite
Right.
honestly. So Mark did his best looking at the 2T rules and having a lot of conversations with this developer to tell them what we can and cannot do. And so we thought this was a good resolution to that.
Well, I'm not questioning what you've done. It just seems like it's too low for me. When I read it, I thought, dear God. Okay, thank you. I make a motion that we approve the transfer on the property.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kuczynski and a second by Commissioner Karen. Is there any discussion on the motion?
We did that.
If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And now we have our item number 10. Mark's hanging in there with us.
You got me for a while.
Yes, the wastewater treatment plant tank replacement task order 22-1, request for approval. So I think got everything in order now.
Yes, sir, we do. I think we're
Good
the
deal.
So our wastewater treatment plant uses chemicals in the treatment process to meet the NCDEQ discharge requirements. That's part of our NPDES permit. The plant currently has 5 alum chemical storage tanks and 4 caustic soda bulk storage chemical tanks, for a total that's 9 chemical storage tanks that we use. The existing tanks are made out of fiberglass, have been in use for well over 20 years. And over time, due to the combination of factors, all 9 of those tanks have deteriorated, and not a single one is operating as it should right now. We've got several tanks that are not operational at all. We've got others that have valves and hardware that are not functioning or leaking. We're making do with what we have, but it's a problem that needs to be resolved. So based on the current age and condition of the tanks, Seguasa staff has determined that the best course of action is to replace the chemical storage tanks with new tanks of modern materials and design. Right now, I anticipate removing the 9 tanks, putting back 4 to 6 larger tanks. I don't know that we need 9, put in a fewer number of larger tanks. I think that should be sufficient. Seguasa's on-call engineer consultant, who is McGill Associates, has provided a task order to us and scope of services to provide the necessary analysis, design, bidding, and construction administration for the chemical storage tank replacement project. The proposal for these services is will be billed hourly, a not to exceed amount of $146,500. Staff recommendation: the engineering director and executive director recommend that the board approve task order 22-1 to replace the existing chemical storage tanks at the wastewater treatment plant. For the schedule, should the board approve this item within 1 week of approval, we will get the signed task order to McGill Associates, and they will begin the analysis and first stages of the project. The current goal is to have this project ready to go to ready to go to public bidding by March of 2023. construction to follow directly after. Financially, the analysis, design, permitting, bidding, and construction administration services will be invoiced hourly at the not to exceed amount of $146,500. And the consultant will provide a construction cost estimate. For the funding summary, the necessary funding for the project will be allocated from the designated capital fund balance. And a budget amendment is necessary for this transaction, and that is on, that item is later on this agenda. Attachments include Exhibit 8, which is the task order provided from the consultant. Strategic plan alignment, this item falls in line with focus area number 2 with the reliable and sustainable sanitary sewer system. And finally, the executive director's recommendation, the board of directors approved task order 22-1 provided by McGill Associates to provide engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant chemical storage tank replacement project at the not to exceed amount of $146,000.
Any questions for Mark?
Hauling away the old tanks?
Yes.
Is it included in this?
Well, this is the survey and analysis design, creating the engineer plans, getting the permits and getting it to bid. This is not the construction. This is all this is the engineering services to get us through bidding, and it will oversee construction, but it does not include the construction.
You thinking of the old tanks at the treatment?
Yeah.
This is a different plant.
Yeah.
But these tanks, there's no use for these once we remove them.
So you said they're leaking, and we could have an environmental hazard if we don't clean these up.
Yeah,
Eventually.
catastrophic failure. I mean, we've got leaks under control, but it's an ongoing maintenance issue.
The
Like I said, we've got several things in our
containment area
Mhm.
where it doesn't.
Out onto
Yeah.
where,
Yeah, all the tanks are in a concrete containment area, so if any chemical were to leak out, it would be captured and we could collect that. So that we're not in danger of, chemicals going out and having an environmental hazard, but.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Commissioner Karen. Do I hear a second?
second,
I got second in 2 places. All right, is there any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor?
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mark, next item, Bowman Road Fire Hydrant Replacement Project, contract award.
Earlier in this year, an existing fire hydrant located off Bowman Road in Creedmoor was found to be leaking and inoperable. This is at the old water tower that's no longer in use and the storage units across from the food line off of 56. To give you an idea where this is at. So the fire hydrant was originally installed directly off of a fire line that serves the storage building, which is in violation of existing requirements, and therefore could not be replaced. So a fire hydrant cannot be installed off of a fire line. It has to be installed off of a separate main line. A fire line should only be serving the fire suppression for that building. So we cannot put a fire hydrant back in place to where it was. Additional investigation of the existing utilities found that domestic water service, which includes a 3-inch water meter and also a backup water meter, are in a concrete vault that also tie to the fire line serving the building. That is also in violation. It was determined that a construction project would be needed to bring the existing utilities up to current standards. The needs of the project include a new water tap, installation of a new fire hydrant, new 4-inch service tap, and new 3-inch meter installation, and the abandonment of existing utilities within that concrete vault. In June 2022, we had Savassa staff completed engineer drawings for the project and issued the project as an informal bid. On July 20th of this year, complete bids were received from 2 contractors. Contract documents presented a base bid for the fire hydrant installation, a 3-inch water meter installation, and abandonment of existing utilities within the concrete vault. It also included an alternate bid of the installation of an additional 10-inch gate valve to be installed on the water main. Results from the bid opening are on the table here, are shown on the screen. Base bid, pipeline utilities about $84,000, with an alternate bid of 900, and HG Reynolds was the higher bid, base bid of 150,000, and alternate bid of 18,900. Recommendation, Seguasa staff recommends the construction contract be awarded to the low bid here, Pipeline Utilities, for the base bid of Bowman Road Fire Hydrant Project. The alternate bid item of the gate valve was deemed to be unnecessary. We found that we could actually shut the water off in the area sufficiently without the installation of a new gate valve. So that's actually not something that's required. So the recommendation is just to proceed with the base bid. Schedule-wise, following board approval, the contract will be finalized this week with Pipeline Utilities. A notice to proceed will be issued, and an on-site pre-construction meeting will be held later this month. Contract time for the completion of the project is approximately 30 days. Financially, the base bid for the Bowman Road Fire Hydrant Project was $84,344. We do not anticipate change orders for the project, but we do feel it's important to add a contingency to the job. We are recommending a 10% contingency for the project. That 10% contingency is $8,434, taking the total budget to $92,778. Funding for the project would come from dedicated capital fund balance, and a fiscal year 22-23 budget amendment is necessary for the transaction of this project, and that budget amendment is later on this agenda. Attachments for the project include the bid tab from the bid opening in July. Strategic plan alignment falls in line with focus area number 1 of a safe, reliable, and sustainable water system. Finally, the executive director's recommendation is that Seguasa Board, 1, approve the contract with Pipeline Utilities Incorporated for the Bowman Road Fire Hydrant Replacement Project for the not to exceed amount of $92,778, and be given authority to review and approve change orders relating to unexpected conditions in an amount of not to exceed $8,434 without further board approval. And 2, allow executive director, Seguasa attorney, and finance director to finalize and execute the contract with Pipeline.
Any questions for Mark?
Does any of this fall under the property owner's scope? The way it was tied in, that nature.
The fire hydrant was right at
I know there was a question about that. I don't mean to interrupt you. I know there was a question about that at one time. I remember hearing if it was a private hydrant or if it was on the water system, which obviously it was on the water system.
It's right at the right of way line. Technically, we own those. If it was farther in the site, definitely on the private property, I would say that's a private hydrant. But we feel that it should fall to Seguasa to replace this hydrant. As far as the valve, the concrete vault with the water meters, everything from the water main to the water meters is public. So that's ours. So we feel it's our responsibility as well at this point to go in and make those changes.
Unless there's been some upgrades in the years, my best guess is that was probably installed back in the late 60s when Kaiseroth Hosiery Mill was built.
It's definitely, this infrastructure has definitely been here a long time.
Huh?
The modifications have not been that long
The
ago.
modifications hadn't,
But that's the thing, is we don't know who made the changes. How did it pass fire inspections is what I want to know. How did the fire marshal pass this building years and years and years, and it took an emergency call by the fire department to figure it out?
I don't know, but I know right now, a fire line is supposed to run to the building to serve fire suppression. You're not supposed to have hydrants or domestic service coming off of a fire line. And that's the way it was installed.
probably was done well before there was even a real fire marshal for the county. We're talking about, now, some of this was changed, but the basic structure, the fire suppression in the building, Kaiseroth Hosiery had fire suppression, had the sprinkler system when it was built.
That's where the tank is there.
Yeah, that's why the tank
Tank
is there.
A water tank.
Yeah. Now, when it got changed or changed around, you know, that's the question we don't have the answer to. But that building had a sprinkler system back in,
Well, hopefully
in the
they still
70s.
do, because they're a
Yes.
storage facility. They,
yeah, there's
hopefully
a
they still
storage
do.
facility. Kaiser Roth went out,
We got private hydrants around the building.
and right beside it, the other building was No Nonsense Fashions.
Yeah, I know.
Pantyhose and
Still
egg.
still in observance 35 years ago when I moved here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, two things I'd like the board to appreciate is that we spent a lot of time having that same conversation on site that you just had.
I'm sure.
As far as the ownership and how we're going to separate this, how we're going to maintain safety, what are we going to do here? And we've been developing this plan for quite a while, and I'm happy to say, and I think the board should be as well, that, you know, we looked at this situation and said, this is what we need to do to upgrade the fire hydrant, to put it back on the line, to look at the valve in the area, to separate these meters from the fire line and the pit as well. And again, these water meters are in a pit, they're underground. So that's part of our concern as well. So we're going to get them shallow, more shallow, if you will, and with a new meter for that area as well, for the automatic meter read at the same time. So we were fooled as well by thinking it was just a simple hydrant replacement repair project, and you can see what it turned in here into though. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Wade,
To approve it or disapprove it?
I make a motion that we approve the contract with Pipeline Utilities Incorporated for the Bowman Road Fire Hydrant Replacement Project for not to exceed the amount of $92,778 and be given the authority to review and approve change orders relating to unexecuted conditions in an amount not to exceed $8,434 without further board approval. In accordance will allow the executive director of SAGWASA, the attorney, the finance director to finalize and execute a contract with Pipeline Utilities Incorporated.
Second.
do we have a second by Commissioner Kuczynski? Any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and thank you, Mr. Wade.
No, sir, thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your work on this project.
Yes.
Yes, I'm glad this building's
Yes.
being taken care of.
Now we move on to, this will be your last item. Well, no, last item. You get
We'll
to sit
find
down
more
after
for him,
this one.
Don't you
I got a
worry.
quick break and then.
You get a little break after this one. The NCDEQ Asset Inventory Assessment, Grant Application and Resolution.
Okay, so the NC Department of Environmental Quality manages an asset inventory assessment grant program. About a year ago, I stood here and we talked about the same grant. But this program is to encourage water and wastewater utilities to become more viable, and more proactive in the management and financing of their system. Grants are limited. There's a max of $150,000 you can obtain from the wastewater reserve or the drinking water reserve. And that must be used over a period of 3 years. Based on the funding source, there may be a match required based on the local government unit indicators. In September of 2021, as I mentioned just a moment ago, SAGWASA applied for the AIA grant for the water distribution system. We learned earlier this year that we actually were awarded that grant. So it's $150,000, which we are developing a scope for now. We did find that grant was funded through ARPA funds, and ARPA funds do not have any strings attached as far as grant funding. So we originally thought we had to pay $30,000 of match for that, but we do not have to. So that's $150,000 of no strings attached money for us to use on the water system. Analysis, SAGWASA has been working with our on-call engineer, McGill Associates, on the AIA grant program. If awarded, the grant funds will be used to perform an asset inventory assessment for the wastewater collection system for the entire area. We will do work throughout the entire service area of Butner, Creedmoor, Stem, and the county. And this assessment will include the funding will go to a condition assessment of all the wastewater lift stations and force mains. As I've mentioned in previous meetings, we got 48 lift stations and miles of force mains that go along with that. We do not currently have good information on, or a good condition assessment on all that infrastructure. So we would like to spend that money towards a condition assessment on those lift stations and force mains. And that would go towards helping to develop a capital improvement plan and come up with future projects. As required by NCDEQ, the AIA grant application must include a resolution to be approved by the governing body of the applicant. And Exhibit 1 attached to this agenda item is that resolution. Our recommendation is for the board to approve the resolution for the application to be submitted to NCDEQ for the asset inventory assessment grant funds of $150,000. Schedule-wise, following board approval, we will work with McGill Associates to finalize the AIA grant application package for submission by the due date of September 30th, 2022. It is anticipated that DEQ will award the grant funds by April of 2023. Financially, NCDEQ will award the money of $250,000 with a potential match based on the funding source. These indicators, the LGU indicators, could require up to 20% match from us, which would be $30,000. As I mentioned earlier, if it's ARPA money, no match would be required. Attachments, as previously said, Exhibit 1 is a resolution for your approval. Strategic plan alignment falls under focus area number 2 for a reliable and sustainable sanitary sewer system. Finally, the executive director's recommendation is for the Seguasa board to approve the resolution and submission of an application to request $150,000 in asset inventory assessment grant funds from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality.
Or did you say that if it was ARPA funds, no match would be required? Is that?
That's in recent conversations with DWI, Division of Water Infrastructure. That's what they told to us, and we've been told that the grant that we received last year, the water AIA, was funded through ARPA funds, so therefore the grant does not have a match.
So we have to comply with all federal contracting requirements and spending this money then?
As far as I know, we're still waiting on the letter of intent to fund from them, from DWI. We were notified. They received additional ARPA money for the AIA program, I think a couple months ago, and they ended up increasing the number of grants that they awarded, and we were added to that list. We were not originally on the list, but we were added later. So based on talking to the state, we should be receiving a letter of intent to fund this month. So it should be in August, and that would have all the stipulations.
We originally applied. When you originally applied, it wasn't any money available. They basically turned us down, and then after they got more funds, they came back and reinstated our application. And okay,
They do this twice a year. Right?
I think the AIA grants are just once a year. SRF funding is twice a year, but the AIA grants, I believe, are just in September every year.
Yeah, and when I was in the class, I thought there was twice, one in the spring and one in the fall. But I wanted to say thank you for applying for the grant money and doing a great job to get it, because this is money that we need and money that doesn't have to come out of the pockets of our customers. And that's important to me.
yeah, absolutely. Any other questions for Mark? If not, do I hear a motion?
So move.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the resolution. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Councilmember McClellan, second by Commissioner Kuczynski. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Richard, you up to bat.
We're gonna put a time restriction on him here from now on. He took a long time.
Change the order of the agenda, are you?
I think we need to go first. Finance always should go first. That's what it is. But no, in all seriousness, now that Mark's explained the projects, these should go quick because we've approved the projects. Now it's just a matter of approving the money for projects. So in your agenda, you have budget amendment number 2, fiscal year 22-23. This budget amendment basically appropriates the money for the wastewater treatment plant chemical tank project that he talked about earlier for the McGill scope of engineering services. I did make a note in your agendas that of the $146,500 that we're appropriating for the project, as explained in the earlier item, $114,973 are the SDFs for fiscal year 21-22 that the board set aside for this project. So we'll basically only be taking out the difference of about $30,000, $32,000 from estimated fund balance. Budget amendment number two, you'll see that you've already approved budget amendment number 1 July for $1,417,908. If you'll recall, the bulk of that was just rolling over items that did not, projects that were completed last year due to time and backlogs. So budget amendment number 2 is increasing revenues by transferring from fund balance $146,500 and allocating the expenditures to the projects and studies department for $146,500. You have a supporting document that shows you a little more detail, but it's really just this one item. And the executive director's recommendation is that the board of directors approve budget amendment number 2 as presented.
Any questions for Richard?
Make a motion to approve budget amendment number 2.
We have a motion by Commissioner Way. Here a second. Second by Commissioner Karen. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carried. Excuse me. And we'll move on to fiscal year 22-23 budget amendment number 3.
Okay.
Supports item 11.
Yep. Budget amendment number 3 is to appropriate the money for the 500 at Bowman Road project you just approved. We've now approved 2 previous budget amendments. The first was $1,417,908, one you just approved for $146,500, for a total previous amendments $1,564,408. So we're increasing revenue by transferring from fund balance $92,778, increasing the utilities water line maintenance expenditure account for $92,778, and the executive director's recommendation is that the board of directors approve budget amendment number 3.
Any questions for Richard on this? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
So move.
So moved by Councilmember McKellar. Here's second. Second by Commissioner Way. Any questions on the motion? No questions, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Now we're down to budget amendment number 4.
Budget amendment number 4 is a little more complicated than the other 2. It's not a specific project as discussed previously in the agenda. Fourth budget amendment for fiscal year 22-23 does not affect fund balance or overall budget appropriations. We're basically just reassigning already existing budget between departments and within line items within departments. The amendment reallocates additional budget for capital outlay items in several departments due to price increases and for meter reading software. The amendment reallocates budget for decals and monthly monitoring software associated with implementing a vehicle GPS program, and reallocates budget for a new laptop and software for the public information officer position. This amendment reallocates budget to outsource locate services associated with the 811 program, and I'll defer to Scott later if you have questions on that. Previous amendments, we just discussed that you've amended $1,417,908. Tonight, you've amended $146,500 and $92,778 for previous amendments of $1,657,186. The budget amendment number 4 is transferring from fund balance 0, not increasing or decreasing revenues at all. In the expenditure section, it's increasing the administration department $6,920, utilities meter reading department by $4,200, the utilities water line department by $23,095, and reducing the project and studies department by $34,815. reallocations for a total increase in expenditures of zero. The recommendation is that the Board of Directors approve budget amendment number 4 as presented. There's a supporting document that gives you a little more detail on how those costs are broken down. And Scott, did you want to say anything about any of those?
If the board has any questions about the 811 utility locating contractual services, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve budget amendment number 4.
Motion by Commissioner Kuczynski. Second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember McKellar. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carried. And now for, Mark gets back up here. Project updates.
3 minutes.
I'll defer the project updates to Richard if.
3 minutes. You get 3 minutes.
3 minutes, he said. That's it.
3 minutes and no more money.
I spend money. I'm an engineer. That's what I do. All right, so I've got a project update presentation. The next slide. First on the list is the I-85 project that you're aware of. It's the same slide we've seen before, showing the overall scope of the project. Don't really need to go into detail on that right now. We'll go to the next slide. Over the past 30 days, we received the draft preliminary engineering report from our consultant, CDM Smith. Survey notification letters were sent out to the property owners. About 400 letters were sent out to everyone's property where we're going to have surveyors along their road frontage. We submitted the license agreement to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to request approval to survey on their property, on the federal property off of Joe P. Road. And we've developed preliminary site layouts for the 3 proposed lift stations. Next slide, please. For the next 30 days, we're going to begin stream, wetland, and endangered species evaluations. We're going to begin the underground utility marking of locations. We're going to begin the site surveying, and we've got a workshop scheduled with CDM Smith to review the preliminary engineering report in detail and really nail down the overall alignment of the proposed sewer lines. Next slide. So this is just the same schedule that I've shown for this slide and the next show that. Don't really have any updates to share right now, but I am working with the consultant on an updated schedule. Next month, we'll have a lot more refined, a lot more detailed information to share on the schedule. But the next slide, I believe, shows, we are 1 month ahead on the survey. The original plan was to start survey in October. We will be out by the end of August, early September of the survey. So hopefully we can continue to chip months away off the schedule. So I believe that is all of the update I have for the I-85 project. I don't know if you have any questions about that.
You can take the geese from Lake Rogers when you do the evaluation on that, because we laid out enough money on that, so you can have them all.
Geese. Can't help you there.
Maybe you could chase them away with lots of loud equipment.
I'm sure we'll have plenty of loud equipment going on during this project, so maybe we can. So, all right, the water system hydraulic model, project scope is the water model for the distribution system, focusing on the city of Creedmoor. And the results from this are going to aid us in development of our capital improvement project plan and improve identified water quality deficiencies. So we have received a draft report from our consultant. I've gone through and reviewed that, made comments, provided that back to them, waiting on the final report based on my comments. We've got a very detailed model. It's calibrated very well. Anybody that ties to the system, we've got a great base model to analyze what any future development is going to do to our water distribution system, and also getting the results in now from the water quality side of it. We're planning to have a presentation for you at the next board meeting to provide detailed information from that project. So we will have the final report in the next week or two, I believe, and then September we'll have the presentation. So
Do you think you'd be able to bring your presentation to the September work session for Creedmoor, which is usually Third week of the month, like the 19th of September.
That should be fine. I don't-
Because I know you can tell it a lot, you two can tell it a lot better than I can.
Only if I can bring Richard.
You can bring Richard, we'll get a special chair just for Richard.
I don't do water miles.
You don't know what?
I don't do water miles.
That'll be fine. I'll be happy.
What is
to
the
share.
finances for?
Yeah, but he could be there for moral support.
Okay.
I'm fine sharing that information. I probably can.
I will double check the date and let you guys know. I appreciate, because I know that there's going to be questions and I won't be
I'll be there to help.
able to answer. Robert might.
All right. Next slide. So this is one that we have mentioned in the past, but we have not given an update on. This is the Lead and Copper Rule Revision Compliance Project. So the US EPA Lead and Copper Rule Revision went into effect on December 16th of last year. The new Lead and Copper Rule better protects children and communities from the risk of lead exposure by better protecting children at schools and child care facilities and getting the lead out of our nation's drinking water and empowering communities through information. And this new rule outlines 8 things that all water systems, SWASA, must complete before October 16th of 2024. The next slide shows these 8 items. So we have to develop an inventory of all of our service lines, including both public side and private side materials. That means on both sides of the water meter, we have to inventory what is serving all of our customers. And make that information publicly available. Verify as many service lines of unknown materials as possible, because any unknown materials, according to the EPA rules, are going to be classified as lead service lines. So we have to identify as many of those as possible. If our system has lead service lines, we have to prepare a lead service line replacement plan, revise sampling protocols and communications for water sampling, revise your sampling protocol, prepare a sampling plan and communication for lead testing in schools, review your corrosion control treatment by evaluating water samples, and prepare public notifications and sample notifications and have them ready to meet the quick response time. So these are eight items that EPA has mandated on us. So we are working towards working to meet that. The next slide. So the project, we issued a request for qualifications in July. We sent it out to about 12 different consultants, also advertised in a couple of different locations and posted on our website. Statements of qualifications from interested consultants are due back on August 24th. We'd like to have a consultant selected for the project in August and would present the contract for consultant to help us on this project at the board meeting in October or November. So that's a lot of information there. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that.
I thought this administration put a slowdown on the lead. Is that what it is? They delayed it for 3 years? Not the state legislation, the federal administration. I thought he,
There was, when this rule was updated, the revision, when it came out in late 2021, late 20?
2020, I believe.
2020, December of 2020. When the new presidential administration took over, they said they would review the compliance schedules, but nothing has changed, so.
but we do test for lead and copper in the water now.
That's a very good point. Since the 90s, there has been a lead and copper rule compliance that SWASA and all the water utilities have followed. And we do the testing. And now they've just basically, you saw everything that they've added to the testing to basically get rid of the lead service lines. I think in summary, what they were saying is that there was no hard set dates on replacing the lead service lines. So for the last 30 plus years, they've been identified. There's been programs that have been out there to remove those, but not fast enough. So now they put their foot on the gas.
There should be some infrastructure money to do that then.
There is infrastructure money available, and this is a program that I've briefed the board on as well to talk about this and the money that's out there. And also, Mark, you might want to talk a little bit further about the RFQ as far as
the scope. Do you have any notes on the scope of what the consultant's doing for us? Because let me just say this to the board. We looked at this for about 6 months to see what we could manage in-house for this, and this is unmanageable in terms of the resources that we need for doing this as far as testing, communication plans, lead service line identification, lead service line replacement, those type of things. So we looked at model cities and what they were doing and pulled together some qualifications and a scope of services, if you will, for this. And so that we'll have these consultants competing basically for our business based on their qualifications. And then we'll lay out a roadmap of everything that we need to do over the next 5-10 years. One of the first things is the inventory. We have to basically correct or create so that we know what is lead, what is not lead there, and then move from there. So
Do you have any inclination at all as to what percentage of the system or what kind of pipes be affected?
So our utility staff, I've talked to them about it. We have not found a lead service line. The old service lines in this area that we have had to work on have all been galvanized. So we have not found lead. I'm not saying there are no lead service lines out there, but we have not found any. Do you know anything different than that?
no, however, this new rule also talks about getting rid of galvanized lines as well. And we have plenty of those throughout our distribution network. So they're going
What
after.
do they get
that as well.
replaced with? PVC?
Plastic pipe, typically.
Life of plastic is ridiculous.
Most of Creedmoor is plastic and copper though, right? New infrastructure in Creedmoor?
Yeah, the lead lines are not installed. They haven't been installed for years, since before the 80s, 1980s.
I think in the 70s, early 80s when it was banned.
I
The
think
life
there's
of
still a
plastic.
fair amount of galvanized in Creedmoor in the older section.
Right, in old Creedmoor, right. But, they did do that
Don't worry, it's in Butner
It's
too.
probably in the water model, so I don't have to worry about it.
prior to any of us being on this board. They did do the upgrade in Creedmoor and made it a Cadillac.
Cadillac system, yeah, I remember that.
Just saying.
Not the Mercedes, just the Cadillac. What is the life expectancy of PVC pipe?
100 years.
All right, okay,
You good?
I am.
Okay.
I think if any of us install it, we won't need to worry about it.
I won't be here, I don't worry about it.
All right, so I think the last item on the list is PFAS investigation and management project. This is another new one. Project background. So the EPA has issued interim health advisory levels for PFOA and PFAS, which are, I can't pronounce what that means, but it's a type of chemical that can get into raw water from plastics, basically. These are guidance and not regulatory requirements. So the current limits are about 70 parts per trillion. That's what the current limits are. Their new limits, they are reducing from 70 parts per trillion down to 0.004 and 0.02 parts per trillion. So that's basically zero. But 1 part per trillion is basically 1 drop of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. So that tells you what 1 part per trillion is and what the new limits are. So right now, the levels that they came out with, they're so low that there is no current technology that can actually measure that low. So they've got these advisory levels that are out, but there's no way to measure that. There's no way to enforce that. But SEGWASA is committed to adhering to all the state and federal water quality standards. So we are making it a priority to start the ball rolling on the program. So we are working with a consultant right now who has a lot of experience in the PFAS management. We got a proposal from them, and they provide a scope of services to us, which includes a PFAS sampling and analysis plan. They would oversee the sample collection. They would perform the analysis on the samples with the best technology available to see what those numbers are. We actually have asked them to come to our September board meeting and provide a detailed presentation to you to better provide information on the PFAS and what it means. And they would ultimately provide analysis and interpretation of those results. Project schedule, we have we're working with a consultant now, but we don't have a detailed schedule at this time, but we will provide that at the September board meeting. So this is a brand new one. So any questions, I'll be glad to take those.
I did see the EPA letter that they have not set out regulations on this. Like you said, this is just guidance. This is not a regulation. So we're getting ahead of it.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
I'm glad we're getting ahead of it. I was looking on the website for Pace Labs, they're a national company, and the language contained in that danced around the issue of accurate measurement. And I had limited amount of experience attempting to calibrate to parts per billion. And it is, you can't order a blank. You have to make the blank. The blank's unstable. In other words, they have a shelf life of days. So it's not like you can order a blank to calibrate your equipment. You have to make your blank. And, it's a very fine measurements to make that. And still, you get what they call an echo at parts per billion. I can't imagine what it's like trying to measure parts per trillion. Now, I'm sure the equipment is much better now in measuring parts per billion than it was 5 or 6 years ago. So probably 5 or 6 years from now, your equipment will be able to actually read parts per trillion, and you can get a somewhat accurate measurement. I remember what it's like trying to get an accurate measurement on parts per billion, and it's a nightmare. Unless you're a full-time lab person.
I want to thank the executive director for responding to this issue as quickly as he has, and Mark too, because it's a concern to citizens. So I appreciate the fact that it was responded to so quickly, and it's on the website, and I appreciate that also.
All right. Well, that concludes my update.
Nothing on the water plant? No pictures?
Luckily, nothing on the water plant. Everything is going well. So
Everything's good.
All those stinky little cans gone out of there, 55-gallon drums?
I'm not sure if they've all been moved out or not.
Okay,
You just put something on this to-do list.
yeah,
Yeah,
put
I need
that on your
to
list.
double check on that.
Is the belt press working well?
Oh, the belt press is amazing.
Belt press is
See
working
the belt press.
better than anticipated. It's working great.
It is truly an amazing thing to see.
Thank you, Mark. Comments from our executive director.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, thank you for your presentations this evening. Richard, same, thank you. You guys make a great team. We spend the money, find some money for you. We keep moving forward on a lot of projects. So I hope the board appreciates all the projects that we continue to do to make improvements to our water system and our wastewater system as well. We just touched on a couple of things regarding PFAS. So just to echo what Commissioner Kuczynski said, on our website, we have links and news stories for all this information. So I hope the public goes to that site and picks up on that accurate information that we are sharing out there, plus a lot of links. Thank you very much. Beyond that, I really have nothing further for this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. And comments from our attorney, Mr. Wren.
No comments at this time.
Okay. And we have an item for closed session. And with that, do I hear a motion to go into closed session?
Motion to go into closed session.
Have a motion by Commissioner Kuczynski to go into closed session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Karen, Commissioner Karen. Any discussion on the motion? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we're going to take a 5-minute break and then reconvene in closed session. We're back in open session. And Mr. Schroyer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there a motion that you would like to make?
I would like to make a motion to authorize the executive director to enter into a project task order for legal services related to the I-85 sanitary sewer system improvement project. For number one, project management easement, document preparation, parcel acquisition, survey review, and recording of the easements. 2, review of construction bid documents, contract preparation and negotiation. 3, the land agent property acquisition. 4, title work for the not to exceed amount of $725,200 without further authorization. And this will be entered into with Smith Anderson.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kuczynski. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, motion carries. Is there any other business to come before the board tonight? If there isn't, then we'll go to comments from our board members. Mr. McKellar, you have some comments tonight?
No comments tonight.
Mr. Way?
I just wanted to say, thank you, Mark and Mr. Bowmer there for all the work you guys continue to do, Mr. Schroyer, our members out in the field, and especially during this heat. Appreciate everything we're doing. I feel like we've discussed some things that we're moving forward on with the hydrants and some other issues, and I look, yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Karen?
No comment.
Okay. Mr. Kuczynski?
I think Commissioner Wade covered it all. I echo his comments.
And I agree. And thank you. Thank you, Mr. Way. And I have no other comments, and there seems to be no other business come before the board tonight. So we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Kenneth's not here, we can't do that. Kenneth always makes the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those who want to stay say no. Ayes have it. We are adjourned. There you go. Thank you.